Hello, today I'm going to tell you a story what happened to me during the last few weeks. As so often, YouTube recommended a video by Linus Tech Tips on my YouTube front page, and this time around I actually clicked on it because it was about DOS emulation and I was a bit curious what he had to say. It was interesting to me because he was not talking about DOSBox, your go-to DOS computer emulator that everyone knows, but he was using PCEm and was talking about how that works. And that spiked my interest, especially for the reason that DOSBox never actually feels like an old PC. It feels more like a piece of software where you boot directly into DOS and then you can use it more or less as a launcher for other programs. Whereas the PCEm actually simulates a retro computer and you can select the hardware you want to simulate and then it behaves more or less exactly like that hardware would behave. And then you can use that like some sort of virtual machine. And that was interesting to me, so I thought, well, one thing I didn't do for quite a while was installing Windows 98, and well, I thought that could be a fun project for the weekend, getting to run PCEm, installing Windows and playing around with some games of the time. Especially interesting was that you can emulate a Pentium CPU, at least if you have a strong CPU yourself, because yeah, that's still quite a stressful emulation. So even my AMD Ryzen 3600 is struggling a lot trying to run a few of those games from that era, but it works well enough and it was a lot of fun. I mean, people today are very happy with the convenience of a modern operating system, but to me it's very interesting to sometimes go back to the old days and see, well, what you were really up against at that time, especially if with the time, you forget some details, how things actually work, you have some ideas, but if you're really going back and doing something like a Windows 98 installation, there are many surprises still in there that you have forgotten over the time. Then my idea was to see what games from that time I still own and just install them, play around a bit and just some fun for a single weekend, and I thought that was about it. Man, was I wrong. So I played around with your usual suspects a bit, your Need for Speeds, SimCities, Total Annihilation. I've installed the Microsoft Plus pack, looked around at all the screensavers and the weird 90s Windows themes you got there. But then I also installed SimGolf, which I didn't really have that much memory of. I mean, I know I'm a sucker for business simulation games and I kind of remembered that I liked the game, but that was about it. And before I knew what was happening, I had put more than 20 hours into the game and was completely addicted. And that's really unusual for me, because normally when I check out old retro games for videos or something like that, I normally just dabble in them for a few minutes. Then I feel I have seen everything, I've been reminded of what I liked about the games. Sometimes I play a little longer, and sometimes, especially for point-and-click adventures, I play through the whole thing. But generally it's, normally about maybe 30 minutes and then I get bored oftentimes, and sometimes I even just play more to get some video footage or something like that. But, well, SimGolf was very different in this regard. I feel like I have to preface the game a bit before I go more into it. This is, objectively speaking, not a great game. That's not what it was about, but it was endlessly intriguing to me and very addicting. I really forgot the time when I was playing it, so let me tell you why I think that was the case. Now, as I said before, SimGolf is a business simulation game. It's not a golf simulator like Lynx or a PGA Tour or something like that. So you're actually managing a golf course, you're creating your own holes, you're constructing buildings like food stands, you have staff to manage. So in this regard, it's more or less your typical tycoon game. The three interesting parts of the game that make it kind of unique is, as I said, you can design your own golf holes and they will be rated and categorized based on things like the length of the course, how difficult it is, how scenic it is, if it needs some creative shots to get to the hole and so on. The second interesting thing about that is that you can actually play the course yourself. You have your own little avatar that you can customize to a certain extent, and then you can either challenge or play a challenge against a single other player, and there are also tournaments that you can hold on your course, and then you play against a whole bunch of other players to win big prize money. And the third and last thing that makes the game kind of unique is that it's somewhat related to the Sims series. So all the characters that are playing on your course have these characteristics, like if they are outgoing or active, neat, if they are married, if they are single, even different professions they have, like musicians, preachers and athletes. And they can actually go on dates on your course. It's a small matching game where you try to match pairs together that get along very well, so they have a good time on your course. Generally, I feel that the game catches the atmosphere of playing golf very well. You feel like you're out in nature. It's about having fun. It's not so much about the competition. And it has some interesting elements that come directly from the setting. So for example, you have to take care about the golf course routing. So you have to make sure that when one hole ends, that it's not a very long walk to the next tee, so people don't have to wait as long. And you place pathing efficiently, because if they walk over a path, they will walk faster. Combine that with the constant shortage of space, and you get this interesting puzzle where you have to optimize where your people run, how you design your courses and the pathways, and where you have space left to put down the buildings. That said, the game is not really that challenging. There are only a few mistakes you can make, and it's, well, mostly quite self-explanatory, and it's hard to run out of money. Most of the time you just have to wait and the money comes in, and yeah, oftentimes you simply wait, but at least you have a nice golf course to look at. You have these very strange repeating and over-the-top sound effects, but they kind of grew on me. And if you really don't have much to do, you can normally play a round of golf yourself in the game. But don't expect any deep golfing simulation here. The golf gameplay is more or less down to luck, maybe minor bit of strategy, but it's, well, more or less turn-based. You just select between a few kind of different shots, and then you aim where you want the ball to go, and then depending on the stats of your character, it will more or less hit that goal. There are other influences, like if they have to do difficult shots over trees or something like that, then the chance that the shot will go wrong is higher. But yeah, generally it's just very simple and based a lot on luck. Now the Sims part of the game to me is the least successful. You have these short stories which only contain of, well, 2 lines of dialogue at most between the characters if you pair them up correctly, and you get a bit of additional money for that. Other than that, it's not really tying into the simulation in any way, and it's not like your own character can interact with the other players or something like that. Staff management is also rather basic. You have your soda vendors, you have your greeters, you have your maintenance guys that keep the place tidy, and you have your marshals. Those are actually quite important because they will speed up the golf players. So if you have issues that the waiting time for a course is very long, you need those marshals to make sure that the people are moving along. But after you hired and positioned your staff, you're not really doing much with them anymore. Now, why would I play such a mediocre business simulation game for such a long time, even going through the trouble to reinstalling it on my Windows 10 PC, because the performance at some point on the emulation was becoming worse and worse, and getting the save files from the emulator back to the PC via an FTP server? The reason behind that is mostly a really great progression design in the game. You always feel like you're expanding. You're always happy to open up a new hole. That's always a cool milestone. You will get rewards for your holes. If they are successful, they can go in the top high scores of the holes worldwide. And then you have the VIPs that play on your course, which can then unlock new territories, and suddenly you have all that new space that you can fill with new holes or with new buildings and stuff like that. you're getting richer and richer, all the numbers go up, and the golf course will become more and more lively with all the new members that are playing on them. And then you have the tournaments that really give some meaning to the course you've designed, because you can actually play through all the holes you designed yourself, and you can compete against other players, and the NPC players are actually not bad, they are quite a challenge, where the simulation aspect of the game is not so much. So this game to me falls in a similar category like Beach Life that I did a video before, where I also praised games that just immerse you in a beautiful setting and let you turn your head off for just a couple of hours if you're coming down from a stressful day of work. I'm still trying to figure out why so few modern games are able to scratch that itch for me. For example, Planet Zoo seems to be a game that falls into the same category, but it never really hooked me in the same way. Maybe it's the added layer of nostalgia that's coming in there, but as I said, I had never played SimGolf for quite a long time. Maybe it's the aesthetics, or maybe Planet Zoo is already a bit too involved to get that relaxing Zen-like type of gameplay. So what do you think is the reason? Do you enjoy games like these? Have you played SimGolf yourself? If you did, just let me know in the comments below. And I hope you liked this video. And with that, see ya!